Right. Thank you. Oh, well, I think we'll make a start then. So welcome to this, which is the meeting of the Conservation Area Advisory Committee. That's a committee that's made up of Derby City councillors, representatives of heritage organisations and co-opted members. And the purpose of the group is to consider live development applications and to make a recommendation so that when the City Council is determining planning applications, it can take those representations into account. The meeting is available for the public to watch, and I'm aware from the last meeting that people were watching that, so welcome to those people as well. And it's worth remembering that the meetings are recorded and available on YouTube. And when I looked at the last meeting the other day, I noticed that there were 66 people had viewed the meeting that when we last met. So people are obviously involved in the background there. So it's worth me just reminding members that is the case. Okay, so I think if we could then move over to the agenda itself. Yes. Oh, yes. Well, I was going to do that in a minute, but yes, I can do that now. There have been some intermittent problems with the IT system of the City Council that have been experienced during today, and it has meant that at times the systems have gone down. Now, if that happens during the course of this meeting, what I'd suggest is that everybody just sits tight for up to 10 minutes. And during that time, the technical people may be able to resolve the issue and bring us back into play. If the problem extends beyond 10 minutes, what I would suggest is that you take it that the meeting has had to be abandoned, and we will send out notification to reconvene, to conclude any business that's not been dealt with at the time of the intermittent problem, should one arise. So just be aware of that. If there's a problem, just sit tight for a few minutes, up to 10 minutes, but no longer. After 10 minutes, we'll abandon the meeting. Okay, so I hope that's clear for everyone. So we can move on to item 1 then, which is, are there any apologies? We seem to have a good attendance.
No apologies from my side, Chair.
Okay, and I've explained already in the introductory remark who the members of the committee are, but just for completeness, I'll just explain. My name is Chris Collis and I'm chairing the meeting and chair the CAC. We refer to the Conservation Area Advisory Committee as CAC, so those people who are either listening now or will be viewing on YouTube, just be aware that CAC stands for Conservation Area Advisory Committee. So I'm a co-opted member, co-opted by the City Council, and the other members that are present at this moment, but others may join, are Chris Twomey, David Ling, Councillor Hinser, Ian Goodwin, Max and Carol Craven, Paul McLaughlin, Councillor Wood, and there are officers in attendance who will assist in both technical and professional matters. So I thank them for their attendance, and I thank all the members for their attendance as well. So late items to be introduced by the chair. There was just one item that I just wanted to raise that's not on the agenda, and the reason I'm raising that as a late item is that yesterday I received a letter from the Derwent Valley Mills World Heritage Site partnership, and it was advising me of two things really. One, that the new management plan for the World Heritage Site is in place and has been formally adopted by Her Majesty's Government, and that will now cover the period 2020 to 2025. So it's a requirement that each 5-year period is accompanied by this management plan. It is available for inspection on the Derwent Valley Mills website. So if you went to that, you will be able to view the management plan and see the various content of that. The letter that I received also asked me to confirm who would represent this committee on the Conservation and Planning Group, as it's to be renamed. I'm happy to continue in that capacity if members are happy for me to do so. It was actually called the Conservation and Planning Panel, that was it, before, so they've renamed it for some reason, and as I say, I'm happy to continue with that. So I just ask, are members happy that I continue to represent this committee on that group?
Yes.
Yes, we vote in favour.
We agree.
Okay, I think I heard most people saying yes, so it certainly was a majority. Thank you for that. So there's no other late item that I'm aware of, in which case we can move on to the remainder of the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare an interest in any of the items that are being considered today? No, sounds like unusually there are no declarations of interest, so thank you for that. So item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of December, which was held in the same format as the meeting is being held today. Minutes have been circulated. Are we all happy to accept those minutes as a true record of that meeting?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, no dissenters that I can hear, so we'll take it that those are approved as a true record. Thank you, Lindsay, for preparing them so well. And then we can move on to item 5. That is the list of items that have been determined since the last meeting. Can we note that list?
Noted.
Yep, everyone's happy to do that. Then item 6, recent appeals. You should have noted in the papers that there was a decision notice, a decision letter issued in respect of an appeal, and that is in relation to an application at Ford Street, Cathedral Quarter, and you'll be perhaps pleased to note that the appeal was dismissed. It was following refusal of consent for a telecommunications installation, and the inspector that's determined the matter on behalf of the Secretary of State has agreed with the City Council that the proposal was inappropriate, so we can perhaps be pleased to receive that notification. So item 7 is the items that are not being considered today on the agenda, and the reason that is circulated is that so members get a full picture of all of the applications that are coming in, which is quite a considerable number at each meeting, as you can see, and clearly from those a selection have been lifted which form the next agenda item. But those are all of the applications, and it may well be that individuals or other heritage-related organisations may wish to comment on those individually, but it's not proposed that we consider those today. So perhaps if that item can be noted, we can. Thank you. I think everyone seems to be indicating that they're happy to note that. So we're moving on to agenda item 8, which is the meat of the meeting, and that is the consideration of some of the current proposals that are live within the planning workload of the City Council. And the first item relates to the old hall, 5 Orchard Street, Derby, and that is re-roofing of the dwelling house. And there is a second application, which I think we may as well just lump them together, which is also for the old hall, which it relates to the erection of a outbuilding, which is a garage. Both these matters have been considered previously, and we can perhaps just remind everyone what was previously when we get into the discussion. I've got a note of that in front of me, but to open the item I would just ask Chloe if she could describe to us the latest position, please. So over to you, Chloe. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. So yes, this is the old hall. The first application that we're looking at is regarding the re-roofing. It did come before you previously in October, and in terms of the re-roofing, further information has been submitted. So this is the comments that Conservation Area Advisory Committee made last time. Since then, there's been quite a bit of information submitted, which included a drone photograph of the roof, a photograph showing areas which have been an issue and where there's been water ingress within the last 3 years, which is the bottom right photograph. Each of the items marked in blue shows there's been quite a few areas of water ingress. There's also photographs showing the water coming inside in a number of locations. There's also been a provisional method statement that's also been submitted, and you will have seen that as part of the application. And there is, of course, the photographs that were part of the previous submission. Okay, so that's it on the re-roofing. Okay, so in that case we'll perhaps discuss that first and then move on to the second application on the site in a few moments' time. So as Chloe said, we previously objected to the proposal for those reasons that were stated, looking for additional justification for the extent of the re-roofing, and also requesting specialist, more comprehensive report and so on, method statement, and more detail. So could I open up the item for discussion then, please? Would anyone like to comment on the latest position?
Yeah, I had a read through, Chair, and I think that the justification was very helpful. Certainly those photographs showing the internal damage, water damage, are troubling, and it needs to be put right. So I thought that there is a justification for doing this work, and there is the opportunity to condition materials and methodology, etc., which gave me sufficient confidence.
Thank you, Chris. Any other thoughts on the latest information?
Well, it's not so much on the latest information, Chris, but it's just that one thing that I think is essential is that if committee and the council planning committee is minded to approve this application, then there should be proper archaeological monitoring of the, i.e. recording of the fabric before the alterations are made and after, in order to have a proper record of the significance of the asset.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Are there any other thoughts? Nope. Okay, so it sounds as though from comments
Sorry, Chair, it's Paul McLaughlin. I was on mute. Sorry. A couple of points, please, Chair. On the aerial photograph taken by the drone, I don't know that Chloe could actually pull that up again. Any chance, Chloe?
Yes, it's just trying to do that.
Okay, sorry.
There'll just be a few moments.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think the areas where the problems are being recorded are where the blue, when we see the photograph in a minute,
Yes.
I think there were some blue indicators to show. Yes, I can think I just saw them briefly then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. There we go. Yeah. Right. So the area immediately in front of us, presumably at the base of the chimney or the top of the chimney we're looking at.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So the details that have been provided on the drawings prepared by the architect relate to the reflashing of that chimney again, and also the valley on the opposite side of that range of the roofs. Chloe, could I just ask you to look very carefully at those details, because there are a few areas where they are not particularly clever. It's just specifically relating to the tiling as it comes down to the valley. The other thing that I noted in their report was that they were suggesting that they were going to use rosemaries as 20% replacement for the roof. Now those tiles on that roof are all handmade. I think they should be asked to see if they can source any second-hand reclaimed handmaids, as opposed to the pseudo machine-made rosemaries that are being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So, Chloe, are you happy to provide that additional scrutiny that Paul was suggesting ought to be given to the two areas that he referred to, which were the flashing round the chimney and the valley at the rear of the same area? Will you be able to just keep an eye on that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you. And then with respect to the preference for handmade tile, then I think that could be included in our comment, really. Are there any other thoughts? No, I think we've probably got this one covered then. Okay, so I would conclude that the discussion by saying that we've no objection to the proposals, and there were just two points to make in addition to that, which were firstly that there should be proper archaeological recording of the fabric, both before and after works, and secondly that all effort should be made to try to source handmade replacement tiles rather than standard manufactured rosemary tiles as being suggested at present. So if everyone's happy with that as the comment, are you okay with that, Lindsay?
Yes, fine, thanks.
Okay, and we'll just leave the other matter to Chloe to keep an eye on the detail of those two areas. Then. Okay, thank you very much. So that's that one. So if I could now perhaps move on to the second application at the Old Hall, if that's on the system next, Chloe. Perhaps you could just explain where we've got to now in respect of the garage proposal.
Yes, of course. You should have a photograph of the front elevation of the hall at the moment.
We have.
That's great. Previously, just to give a bit of an update, there was an application previously, April 2020, for a two-storey garage and store just in this location, in front, to the front of the old hall. That was refused previously. The application also included a garden building. Advisory committee obviously had concerns about the two-storey garage and store, but weren't overly concerned about the garden building. This application is for a single garage, timber clad, and this is the version that you saw last time. So last time, this is what you said at the last time you saw it. So the revised proposal was smaller, but you thought it was in an inappropriate location, and there was a need to consider other options. And there was possible location where in the past the historic cart sheds had been sited. Advisory committee also considered the timber material inappropriate. Advisory committee agreed that if a better siting could be found, archaeological fieldwork would be needed.
Okay.
Great. So just to give a bit of background, you'll have seen this fabulous photograph within the heritage statement showing the old hall and the area, well, both the listed two-star building as well as the listed gate piers, which are set in front, which are listed separately. And also it shows that obviously the area that's in front now with the landscaping is relatively new. Now the garage is proposed to be located just off the side of this photograph, the top photograph, just off the area which has got a number of the cobbled sort of landscaping. So a number of locations have been looked at in terms of possible locations for the garage following your comments last time. And an analysis within the application showed that locations A, B and C were very tight to park a vehicle and then turn round and exit, apart from obviously the end elevation at C. They also looked at location D, which is in the approximate location of the existing proposed single garage, which is their preferred location. Here's some photographs just showing the building A, bottom left, a building to the side of building or area B, bottom right, and the approach from just inside the entrance. You can see top right the area where the current cart sheds are. It is very tight in terms of manoeuvrability, and a car having been on site, it does look very tight. Just to finish off, there's also a plan showing the different phases and showing the house and its immediate garden in blue, in yellow the out houses and the farmstead which is in a separate ownership now, as well as the surrounding area, fields, parkland, etc.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Chloe. I think that was very helpful to see all that detail, and in particular the new information which relates to the analysis of alternative locations. So can I invite comment then on the latest position, please?
Can I say something, Chris?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but my feeling was that there is so little ground left around this important historic building now that anything you put up in addition, except for a small thing like the garden building, is going to cause serious harm to the setting of the building. And we're of the opinion that they should just carry on parking on the hard standing as everybody has for the last 40 years.
Thank you, Max. Any other thoughts?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Ian.
Just a technical point, really. I thought that the distance between the garage, proposed garage, and the feature in the centre of the courtyard was very tight. You normally need to leave about 6 metres to reverse a car out of a garage like that, or get in one. So I'm just concerned that it might not be practical, or it might need to be moved back a little bit to get the cars in and out properly. Okay. It's quite a tight radius around that central feature. Just a technical point.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on the proposal?
Another technical point, just to re-emphasise what we said last time, is that the applicant would, if it's approved, the applicant would have to appoint an alternative to carry out some form of field work, probably a watching brief. I'd leave it to the County Archaeological Service to advise on that.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, Paul McLaughlin, Chair. I do feel that the applicant and their agents have made quite an effort in pursuing what we suggested last time, looking at alternative arrangements, and they have as well reduced the size of the building. I note what Max was saying about any building in that location is going to have an effect on the setting of that building, but it is really, if you go down there and have a look at it, it is really fairly well tucked away to the left side of the sort of forecourt area. So personally, it doesn't actually cause me that much grief now. I think it's an improvement on what was suggested previously.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any other contributions?
Just one from me. I had hoped that they might find a solution with the existing buildings.
Yes.
And as has been said, they have looked at that. Still not convinced that can't work, and that because that was always the place where the carts, etc., were cars. So it would be a better solution in my mind if they were able to deal with it in that way without introducing something new. And my only other comment was about the well, I accept it's smaller and less impactful than it was, but it's still unfortunate that it's located in this place. And I did wonder about the impact on the trees. Sounds like it won't have an impact, but in reality it probably will. Tree loss.
Okay, thank you. So does that conclude the contributions that people wish to make at this stage? So we've got really a difference of opinion that we need to resolve then. in that we've got a range of comments, ranging from objection to the building to acceptance of the building, given the efforts that have been taken to explore the alternatives, and comments in between those two extremes, really. So I think I'm going to have to ask members to indicate either that they wish to object to the proposal, or not to object, to agree to raise no objection. In which case the detailed comments can come into play about information about trees and archaeological brief and so on. So I think we need, because there is a difference of opinion, we need to resolve that. So the only way I think that can be dealt with is that Lindsay, are you able to run through the names of the attendees, and they can in turn indicate either objection or no objection?
Yes, I'll do that.
I think we need to do that then.
Okay, I'll start now. Councillor Ginster?
I'm inclined to accept and support Paul McLaughlin's views.
Object or no objection?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I'd be supportive of the adjustments they made in the application.
Objection.
No objection. That's it. Yeah.
Councillor Wood.
No objection.
Carol Craven.
Object.
Maxwell Craven.
Object.
Ian Goodwin. Ian Goodwin. David Ling.
No objection.
Paul McLaughlin.
No objection.
Chris Toomey.
Yeah, objection.
Chris Wardle.
Objection.
I'll go back to David Ling.
No objection.
And finally, Chris Collison.
I missed Ian's. Ian's
Object.
object. Right. Okay. Thank you. And I would have no objection.
So that's 6 for no objection and 4 for objection.
Okay. So it's no objection. Takes the day. That becomes our comment, and we will want to include in the comment the two detailed points that were made, that we would ask that cognizance is given to the location of and impact on trees, and if necessary some minor adjustment.
Sorry, Chair, could I just interrupt a second?
Yes.
I was just doing the tally, and I think David Ling may have been counted twice. Could we just check that, please?
Okay.
I only recorded it once for David Ling. I went back to him because I didn't hear anything the first time, and I just had no objection from him. So
I heard him twice, so that's fine as long as you've got the record.
There's 10 people, 6 people for no objections and 4 people for objections. So that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm just checking that this is correct before we go on. So can I just check with Ian again? Ian, what was your?
Mine was object.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm getting a different tally then. I think we're going to have to do it again. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. I'll
Yep.
just give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Sorry, hello?
Yep. Okay, I'll start running through again. I'll start with the councillors.
Yeah.
Councillor Dinsder.
No objection.
Councillor Wood.
No objection.
Carol Craven.
Objection.
Maxwell Craven.
Objection.
Ian Goodwin.
Objection.
David Ling.
No objection.
Paul McLaughlin.
No objection.
Chris Toomey.
Objection.
Chris Wardle.
Objection.
Chris Collison.
No objection.
So I have for objections 4 and for no objections 6, as previously.
I'm sorry, I'm getting 5 each.
Yeah, sorry, I am too.
5 each.
Yeah. I'll just check them back with you. Councillor Zinter, no objection. Councillor Wood, no objection. David Ling, no objection. Paul McLaughlin, no objection. Chris Collison, no objection. I make that 5. Yep. Lindsay.
Yeah, but I've got one more. Chris Wardle.
And then objections, I've got Chris.
I objected.
Yeah. You object, yeah.
So on objections, I've got Chris Twomey, Chris Wardle, Ian Goodwin, and Max Craven and Carol Craven, which again makes 5.
Okay. Well, do you want to do it one more time, or do you want to?
No, well, I'm happy that it's 5 each.
Right.
Are you still not clear that that's the case, Lindsay?
No, I'm not. I've got 4 for objections and 6 for no objections. I'm terribly sorry. Do you want to do it again, just to make?
Can you just read out the 4 and the 6 then?
I haven't got the names. I've just listed the.
Okay. Well, I'm making it 5 each. I'm sorry, and I don't know what everybody else makes it, but
it's 5 each, Lindsay.
Okay, 5 each then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you make it 5 each, Chloe?
Yes, I did.
Yep. Okay. In which case, I have the duty to cast a vote again as chair, and having voted as no objection, then I again repeat that, and so cast a further vote, which is no objection. So the no objections still have it. Is that clear, Lindsay, to you?
Yeah, no objections.
So going back to where we were then, the no objection is to be accompanied by 2 comments. One regarding trees, that we were asking that cognizance is given to the location of trees, and that any minor adjustment to suit the long-term retention of those trees needs to be considered. And secondly, that the watching brief regarding archaeological substance on the site should be evidence on the site should be undertaken prior to works on the actual building. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. It's just, but it's good that we do get it right in the end. Okay, thanks very much. So if I could ask then that if everyone's happy to do so, that we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Carlton House proposal at 116 London Road, which is for the installation of replacement windows to the front elevation of a grade 2 listed building. And over to you, Chloe.
Right. Well, this is a photograph and plan showing the location of Colton House, which is located on the corner or near the corner of Regent Street and London Road. The listed building, bottom right within the photograph, is the building with the two dormers and the portico to the front, as well as the building to the right-hand side, the brick building to the right-hand side, as seen in the photograph. So this application, as you mentioned, is for replacement windows. This is a Grade 2 listed building. Obviously, we're not dealing with the building on the left-hand side of the plan, bottom left. Apparently they also own this building, but that's not listed and doesn't form part of this application. So we asked for some information on the condition of the windows, and we've received some photographs showing the details of the existing windows and their state of repair. So those, hopefully you can see the photographs, and that the state of repair in terms of a number of them going along the sill to the top floor, and also some of these, well, the majority of the windows having horn details to them, although obviously the central window above the door doesn't have, so that seems to suggest that's an earlier window. But it'd be useful to hear your thoughts. This is a close-up of the one of the downstairs windows, and here's a photograph of the building to the right. There's also been some joinery details that have been submitted. They are proposing a 24mm double glazed sandwich, both for the sash windows and the flush casements within this building. And that's it for this one.
Lovely. Right, thank you. So, if we can just take the presentation down, which we are doing. Yep, lovely. So could I invite comment on the proposal, please?
Chair, Paul McLaughlin.
Thank you, Paul.
I note from their report that one of the main reasons for wanting to replace these windows with double glazed sealed units, which we have to note is contrary to guidance as far as listed buildings are concerned. But the main emphasis is from noise. I wonder whether the applicant's been given proper advice in that secondary glazing, which is the preferable method in terms of listed building glazing, is far more effective for noise attenuation than it is than a sealed unit. I think, going back to Chloe's comment about the central window, yes, that does appear to be an older unit. Probably the complications of repeating the curved glazing bars might have put them off replacing that at one point. But yeah, they are quite important windows and a very important group of buildings as well. So I think we need to pursue the traditional approach for listed buildings on that.
Thank you, Paul. It's very clear. So are there any other... welcome, Mike, to the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I've been stuck down at the arena getting my vaccination.
Oh well, that's good news for you.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome. We're on the item relating to Carlton House, 116 London Road.
Oh, I know the place, yeah.
Replacement windows, and we've just had a contribution from Paul. Are there any other thoughts on the proposal?
Just to add to that, I'd support what's just been said, but add that if it's thermal improvements that are being sought, which I'm sure is part of this, there are now some much thinner glazing units that are available that don't require the sort of plant-on bars that are proposed. I guess there'll be a cost premium associated, but they're certainly out there, and they can be as thin as 6-7 mil. glazing. So effectively it's single glass. It's like histo glass. So there's a product called Finio, fine with an O on the end, which is quite impressive.
Thank you.
That would sit within a traditional glazing bar. So certainly worth exploring.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. Are there any other thoughts on the proposal?
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
I think rather than a sealed unit, I would go along with the fact of a secondary glazing.
Yes.
Me too, and also the narrowest possible glazing bars.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so we sound like we're getting to a majority view on that. Is there, just give anybody else an opportunity to add any further comment? No. In which case, there seems to be a consistency there that we want to object to the proposal at present. On the basis of the information that's available to us, in that we think the solution that's being put forward is inappropriate in terms of the type of glazing and also the joinery and so on. So thanks, Chris, for mentioning the Finio, and I'm sure Chloe can pass that on as a potential source of the product that you mentioned, if the thermals are as equally important to them as the noise that they have suggested. So in conclusion, I would say that we're raising an objection and asking the officers to go back to the applicants to consider an alternative solution to the replacement that they're putting forward for this important set of buildings, grade 2 at Carlton House. So thank you for that. Is that clear, Lindsay?
Yes, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. In which case we can move on to the next application, which relates to a cycleway, and probably members will recall that we have in the not too distant past had quite a discussion about a cycleway in an alternative location, which was probably not that long ago, and we can all remember some of the issues about width and materials and so on. But this case, it's running north, as the map suggests, running north from Darley Abbey to, well, I call it to Abbey Hill, but I think that's probably the right name for the A38 in the location between the Little Eaton roundabout and the A6 roundabout. Okay, so over to you, Chloe, if you could describe the proposal for us, please.
Yes, certainly. So this proposal is a cycle route and pedestrian route. It's 1.97 kilometres in length, and as the chair mentioned, it runs from Haslam's Lane, adjacent to Darley Abbey Mills, northwards towards and underneath the A38. Now, 0.93 kilometres of this route is within the Derby City area, and to the north of this, it's within the Erewash Borough Council area. So Derby City boundary is about where the river is meandering, and I'll point that out hopefully later on. So here's the route. You can see on this slide the location, top right, of various heritage assets within the area. It is also located within the Darley Abbey Derwent Valley Mills World Heritage Site. Here's a little bit more information and some photographs which show where it's located as it runs northwards, and views from the proposed area towards Darley Abbey Mills site, the highly graded listed mills and the chimney. Further northwards, the illustration on the left-hand side shows in red the proposed development, and in purple and yellow the location of the existing path. So it's proposed that it's going to be realigned. The right-hand side illustration is going for, as one moves northwards from the left-hand illustration, this is a continuation of its route. Just a bit more information on the alignment, obviously starting left-hand side and then continuing on the plan on the right-hand side. Further northwards, the left-hand side plan, the point halfway up that plan on the left-hand side, that's the City Council boundary. Further northwards, just to give you the context, is the middle plan further north, and then the A38 at the very northern part of this proposal, and so it loops round and underneath the A38. So I've got a couple of slides now just showing the construction of the pathway. It's proposed to be 2.5 metres wide and is tarmac and with concrete edging. Slightly different detail where the cycleway is adjacent to a track for vehicles such as tractors, etc. Okay.
Thank you, Chloe. So I just mentioned one thing, that in the interest of transparency, I have in recent times undertaken the independent examination of the neighbourhood development plans for Little Eaton and for Duffield, but I didn't feel that that in any way required me to make any declaration of interest. But as I say, in the interest of transparency, I just mention that. So are there any comments on the proposal in terms of its effect on the World Heritage Site or the other heritage assets in the Darley Abbey area, or any other comments about it?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
Yes, Chair. In fact, I walked this path yesterday. I use it fairly regularly with my dog. I think this, to be honest, it's in a bit of a state at the moment. It's the track itself, which is used by the area near the A38, is used by a man who sells turf, and he seeds it and planes it and seeds it and planes it. It never seems to get any lower, which is quite surprising to me. But the track is used by all his vehicles, and it's got some enormous potholes and things, which is not a problem to a walker. But as a cycle track, it's not very attractive at the moment. I think this, by and large, will be an improvement. You can't see much of anything in terms of, because it's right down at river level, in terms of impact on any of the heritage assets in the area. I doubt you can see anything other than perhaps a chimney or two, or the church in Darley Abbey from the track. I think it's a good idea, Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any other comments on the proposal?
Yeah, I also think it's a good idea, but I just think it shouldn't be done in tarmac. I think it should be something more, a bit more sensitive to the rural setting. So something like resin-bound gravel. So it's the same argument we had to do with Darley Abbey Park.
Okay.
At the moment it's tarmac with concrete edging. So if it were resin-bound gravel with a metal edge or something, it would be.
Can I just
sympathetic?
Can I just make a point here? Michael Carr mentioned heritage assets. Well, I think you'll find that one heritage asset will be the Ridge and Furrow, which lies beside the river. I'm not saying there's any objection to putting a new path across the Ridge and Furrow, but you're talking, Michael, about designated heritage assets, such as the church and so on.
Yeah. Thank you for that additional point then, Chris Wardle.
If I could just come in there, as far as I know, there isn't any ridge and furrow on that side of the river.
Well, you can even see on the aerial photographs, and if you check the HER, I think you'll find that the ridge and furrow recorded in that area.
All right. Well, it looks as flat as a pancake when you're walking along there.
Well, take a look. Chloe, can you show the aerial photographs again, please?
Are you able to do that for us, Chloe?
Are you able to see that?
Yeah, I'm able to see that. Well, if you look at the photograph on the right, you can clearly see what may be ridge and furrow, what might be flood meadows, to the right of the photographs. That's plain as pikestaff to anybody who knows anything about archaeology.
Yeah, well,
okay.
They're definitely flood meadows, that's for sure.
I haven't checked the HER for the area, but I strongly suspect that ridge and furrow will be recorded in the area.
Can I come in here, Chris?
Yes, please, Max.
That is not a ridge and furrow. There is no medieval field system on that side of the river, and you can. It's worth checking the HER, but I think it's irrelevant, and it's also not strictly relevant to the path itself, which is not planned to cross it particularly. I think much more important is the fact that the path ought to be more eco-friendly, and as Chris Toomey suggested.
Thank you, Max. Are there any other comments?
Could I also ask Chris?
Yes, Carol.
I know the path is going to be tarmac, but is there any reason that it should be 2.5 meters wide in tarmac? That sounds horrendous.
What? Can I just comment on that, Chair?
Yes.
Most of it is a farm track at the moment, which is about 4 meters wide and pretty filthy. So I don't think having a 2 meter wide track would be a disadvantage. But I agree with the comment that said it should be in some more eco-friendly material. Top Trek would be my preference, but that's it. Yeah.
I'd also point out that the path through Darley Park was 3 meters wide.
Yes.
And it's quite clear when cycles are passing one another that you do need a fair bit of space. I hope they've also considered the fact that it's probably underwater as we speak.
It was yesterday.
So I wonder if they've taken necessary precautions with regard to strengthen it against flood, because quite often these paths, and I know that during the last floods, part of the park the new path in Darley Park got washed away in the floods, so they need to be careful about that.
Yeah. Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Chair. I mean, I tend to agree with the Councillor Carr in terms of supporting the application, and if an eco-friendly surface can be used, that obviously all to the good.
Thank you very much. Okay, there seems to be a unity of thinking about the materials, and no one's really raised objection to the principle of this having a cycleway through there. In fact, national policy does really ask that opportunities to better reveal the significance of heritage assets is taken, and in some respects the creation of a cycleway, which I think is part of a bigger proposal along the entire length of the World Heritage Site, is exactly that, isn't it? You know, it's to encourage people to travel along at a pace that will allow people to better appreciate the significance of the heritage site, rather than travelling either on a busy road or in a vehicle, a motor vehicle. So I think there's a lot to be said for the proposal. We don't seem to be seeing any problems with structures, and so which we did discuss at the park. About where you're crossing water courses and so on. That doesn't seem to be an issue. So it sounds as though we're concluding by saying that there is no objection to the proposal, but that we are of a strong opinion that the surface material and possibly also the edging material should be looked at again, and that an alternative to the use of tarmac and concrete edging should be found, so that a more eco-friendly and visually more acceptable surface treatment should be adopted in this case. Okay, thank you.
Can I just make clarification? I've just checked the online HER, and there isn't any ridge and furrow recorded in the area on the HER, although it looks distinctly ridge and furrow-like to me, but it's probably, you often get very flat fields where there was ridge and furrow, which you can only see any real trace on an aerial photograph, but there isn't any ridge and furrow recorded in the HER.
No, strangely enough, at times of flooding, a lot of things are better revealed. I've seen quite a number of things that have been revealed in the last few days in various parts of the country. But thank you for doing that very speedy check, Chris. Very helpful. It doesn't actually alter the proposal for the representation that I've just suggested we should have. And have you got that clearly recorded then, Lindsay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's lovely. So we can move on then to the
Chair. Before you do, could I just give my apologies, because I've got to leave for another meeting, which
yes,
I'll be signing off now.
Oh,
I trust you to make a good and balanced judgment on the last item on the list.
Yep. As you've got a very busy agenda and schedule, and thank you for your attendance thus far, and we'll do our best to do exactly that on the last one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on then to the final item on the agenda, which is at the location of 8 to 14 Agard Street. We've had a number of proposals on Agard Street over recent years, but on several occasions we've considered this very precise site at 8 to 14. And I don't know whether Chloe's going to run us through all of the history, but I've got a note which Chloe's kindly sent me of the previous comments, so if we need to refer to those, we've got them to hand. But I think in the first instance it'd probably be most useful if, Chloe, you could just run us through the latest proposal, which is a variation from the one that we considered most recently, I think in March 2019. Okay, thanks, Chloe.
Okay, so the site, I think you're all aware of its location on Agard Street. This map shows Pickford's house, number 41, bottom left, and the site, obviously, and its outrigger as proposed. Just a quick reminder, photographs of the site, which includes a row of cottages on the frontage to Agard Street and the green shed set back further. It's obviously adjacent to the flats and the student accommodation adjacent. Just to remind you, the views out of Pickford's house. As the chair said, there's been previous alliterations or versions of applications on this site between 2015 and 2019. The earliest, version 1, if you remember, was this one. Then there was version 2, which stepped down along the frontage and stepped down back into the site. And there were some visuals showing version 2. Then there was version 3, which shows us stepping down along the frontage and stepping back from the frontage, and a 4-storey outrigger to the rear. All of these versions are roughly the same in terms of closeness to Pickford's House outrigger. Some further visuals. This is what you said last time in terms of version 3 in 2019. So obviously there had been a reduction in height, and I'll take you through the differences between the different story heights shortly, but those were the main points that you raised last time. So the last version, version 3, it was refused, and that was on environmental health grounds. To address this, the applicants have submitted this new application. So this plan shows the previous plan and now proposed. So as you can see, they're trying to step it back or bring it back from Agard Street. So the previously proposed on the left-hand side and the now proposed on the right-hand side. But as you can see, the outrigger to the rear is the same, but obviously the height has increased. So here's some visuals showing the proposal as it currently is. Here's also the proposal's elevations. The previous height of the last version was up to the brickwork. The top of it was up to the brickwork of the adjacent taller building along the top. Sort of context elevation. So the previous was along that division at the bottom of the top of the windows. So the top windows that run along the top of the building. It was a story lower. So just in summary, these were the floors along Agard Street. So version 1, it was 9, then it stepped down 8 to 7 to 6. Version 3, which was refused, but advisory committee was generally okay with it, was 765, and now proposed is 876. And you can see in terms of stepping back into the site, the differences on the right hand side of the table. So just in terms of what I was trying to explain earlier, the new building, the previous was up to the brickwork on the brick part of that building that's adjacent, but didn't extend into the cladding, the grey, blue and green cladding above. Now the proposal is for another story, so 8 stories, which would be halfway up that cladding.
Right, thank you, Chloe. That was very clear. Thank you. It was helpful to look back at the various, as you call them, iterations of the scheme as we've dealt with them over a period of time. So I'll open it up for discussion then, really. So has anyone got any comments on the latest proposal?
Well, Chair, we've definitely regressed, haven't we?
Thank you, David.
And, I think the previous scheme was bad enough, but this has just got worse again. So I would object.
Thank you.
Chair, can I say something?
Yes, Max.
Oh yeah, okay. Overall, I cannot help but say that this scheme, like the previous one, which I missed the meeting for, will cause substantial and irreversible harm to the setting of a Grade 1 listed building, and that is completely unavoidable. And whatever you do, if you want to keep the number of flats in this particular development to the same level, and therefore the profit levels that high, you are always going to cause irreversible harm to a Grade 1 listed building and to the neighbouring ones, some of which are 2-star. The other thing I might say is that the heritage impact statement says that the Ram Inn is one of the designated heritage assets in the area. That has been knocked down against our advice about 3 years ago. And in the assessment in Appendix 1, it says that the rear of Pickford's house has considerably less architectural interest and integrity, which architectural interest does not mean pretty. It is of considerable architectural interest at the back, and it's considerable integrity. And if the applicant would like to read the substantial article I published in the Journal of the Georgian Group earlier last year, they will understand exactly why. They also go on to say that the views from beyond the garden have little integrity and are dominated by poor quality modern developments. This development is not exactly going to help then, is it? Okay, that's all I've got to say, I think.
Lovely. I think we've got the gist. Any other comments?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, please, if I could just come in.
Yes, Ian?
Yeah, I do think that the building's far too high. Contextually, I think the maximum height that you should be looking at onto Agar Street is 2 stories. And then 4 stories step back, like the scheme that we approved at 18 Agar Street.
Thank you.
Sets a precedent for what we've approved previously, apart from the one that we approved to the left of it on the elevations as well. But there are 2 buildings that have been approved, and one is a lot lower than the one that they're using as a precedent for their description.
Thank you, Ian. Are there any other contributions?
Chair Paul McLaughlin, just to concur with everything that's been said, as David said, it's regressed. It wasn't good in the first instance, but it's regressed. So no, I object.
Lovely.
Yes, Chris?
Yes, Carol?
I think with the economics over the coming years, it's always going to dictate the number of stories that we're always going to be getting. So whenever there's a planning application, we'll always get a similar thing coming to us. Yeah. And it is very worrying, really, being, I suppose, a university zone. That side of the road is going to be overly developed. But yeah, my objection is the impact on a Grade 1 listed building. That's Pickford's house.
Thank you.
Just from my point of view, just to record the fact that I'm extremely disappointed that they've having gone through quite a long and arduous process, they've gone and gone back to making it yet bigger, which I don't understand. No. I think at least there was, I know other panel members won't agree with the previous situation, but at least there was a logic with what they were proposing, in that they were sort of limiting the height to the height of the brickwork of the building immediately adjacent and stepping down from there. But I think, you know, to go higher again is not acceptable, and there's no justification for it.
No. Okay, I think.
Well, I agree with all of the members who objected to the proposal. I've got to say that the heritage statement doesn't really give a full impression of what the impact on the setting of the building from the south side of Frygate would be like. So I've got to tick them off for that. But should the planning committee be minded, bear in mind they'd have to also take on board the comments made by Historic England, because it's a Grade 1 listed building, we shall have its setting impacted by this. If this proposal does go ahead, then there would be a need for archaeological recording paid for by the developer.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. Is that a conclusion from all comments? Yep. Sounds like it. Okay. Oh well, that's certainly is very clear, isn't it? That everyone who's spoken has been saying the same thing, which is that the proposal is not acceptable. The justification that we've seen in the documentation, I suppose, was that because they've had to react to the air quality reason for refusal, which interestingly was the only reason for refusal that the planning committee made, they've come back 4 meters and therefore had to shuffle things around and make rooms smaller and everything else, and they've introduced into the argument somewhere some viability issue. So that was what we had before us. Everybody is very clear that the proposal is now unacceptable, and that we raise an objection on the grounds of the impact on the detrimental impact on the significance of not only the grade 1 listed Pickford House, but also the other heritage assets that are in the near vicinity of the site, and that impact will be so significant that the proposal should be refused. And I'm not sure really, Chris, that at this point it would be worth suggesting that, but we could do if you really want to.
Well, bear in mind that the planning committee might.
Well, they might.
Advice. I think any objection we might raise, I think, yes. The thing about archaeological recording should be at least, put in terms of if the planning committee decide to ride our advice, then. Yes.
Would you be happy then that rather than introduce any confusion into our very clear message, rather than just mention that, perhaps we could rely on Chloe to bring that into play if the committee did err in the way that you've suggested they might, and if that happened, then at that point, rather than dilute the message that we've made, which is a very clear no, that I think perhaps if you're happy with that, Chris, we'll just bring that into play.
Can I just ask Chloe what advice she's received from Historic England with regard to setting the building?
Yes, there is a letter online that you'll be able to read that came from Historic England regarding this application.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Oh well, I think that concludes our agenda for this evening. I thank you all very much for your attendance. I think we are struggling through in terms of this system rather than meeting in person. Hopefully, within some months, we should be able to get back together in a physical setting. But for now, we need to continue in this way. So in a moment, I'm going to close the meeting, but I just ask members to remain online in that we could then have the opportunity to just exchange any information with one another once the public meeting has closed. So just stay online. Thanks very much for everyone's attendance at the new revised time, which will apply in future as well. And I'll close the meeting at that point. Thank you.